Spirit of Matter, and today I'm in a very special episode where I'm going to showcase to you my talents and my very signature reading, which is Outer Planets to Inner Planets View with the Spirit of the Times. And right now it is it's a Mercury, but it is night already, so we are in sun night, and Mercury hour. Mercury is retrograde, but you know me, I got Mercury in Aries, and when I say I want to do it, I want to do it. Even if it's not the perfect timing, I'm gonna do it. So the ascendant is ruled by a retrograde Venus, and the midheaven by a retrograde Saturn. And we are right now at the full moon. So for some reason I chose to give my signature reading right now on the full moon in Pisces. So yeah, right now we have the exact moon Saturn conjunction. And the midheaven is ruled by Saturn. Midheaven on the 22nd degree of Capricorn, ascendant in 4 degrees Taurus. That's very interesting. And we will see what will be. Mercury in Virgo, retrograde, 19 degrees here, in conjuncting Chiron. Venus, 12 degrees, probably already stationing to go direct on September 4. And she's separating from a square to Jupiter. Most angular planet, I believe, is Jupiter. Most angular planet is Jupiter. Okay? And Luna is ruled by Jupiter. So, we'll see. And the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to take a particular chart that I can draw asteroids for. So this is probably not this chart. I'm going to have to take like I think they have a function of generating a random chart. And I'm going to give the chart a reading. This way I'm not using only my chart, which would make it quite heavy. But let's see. Reverse engineering, mundane, aspect, ephemeris. Or I want to see, because I think we have the ability to generate a chart. I know we have this. There's electional, astrocartography, planetary cycles. I know it's here. Can I have a random? Let's see if we can search here. Do I have a search option? Okay, I'm not gonna get stuck on that. I'm just gonna open just a random chart. Let's do the full moon in Pisces. And let's open asteroids. And the reason I'm opening asteroids is because I consider Aries a planet. So every person has their own weird stuff. This is mine. So for me, what is the reading about? The personal planets, okay? Moon, Mars, Mercury, Venus, Sun, and to some degrees Jupiter, and the latest is Saturn, are the personal planets. Okay? The personal planets, while the ascendant is you, the personal planets, that could be your sister, that could be your mother, that can also be aspects of your life, or people that come with aspects of your life, or you in an aspect of your life. All of the above. It's personal. It's German. The German word for it is zwischenmenschlich. Okay, between people, between two people, or between people. And then there are the outer planets. Usually, people either don't work with the outer planets because they're like, oh, traditional astrology, and so we can do it with 7 planets we don't need anymore. And the outer planets, because they move so slowly, they're generational. And they're like, okay, what's the point of giving you a reading about the generational planet if it's a natal reading? And it sounds very logical, and for many charts it is, unless that outer planet touches your personal planets, especially in a hard aspect, but also in a harmonious aspect. When it happens, whether natally or in transit, you're gonna know about this. Okay, it's a very transformative time of your life. It's a very pivotal time, or a time where you need to surrender, i.e., feel lost and in despair. And it's a couple of years. So most people that do work with outer planets, like evolutionary astrology, they are going to say Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. Okay, that is quite misleading the way I see it, and I think that we cannot ignore the Aries story here. And Aries is basically another planet that's a bit bigger than Pluto, and Pluto got demoted when we discovered Aries for no scientific reason. This tells you a lot about the nature of Aries. And if Aries appears, if she makes contacts in your chart, you're gonna see it. It's gonna be obvious. If it's with the moon, it can be a certain scientific field that you're bringing into fruition. Okay. Not gonna give concrete examples because maybe the astrologers that I'm gonna name are gonna say, I disagree with you. I don't think that that's that. But the thing about Aries, if the moon hard aspects Aries, you might have it like Albert Einstein. You might bring in something new, and you'll find it difficult to accept your theories yourself. Perhaps if the aspect is more harmonious, you will believe it, but it's gonna take some time for that field to flourish, to develop. With astrological magic, I don't know Caitlin's chart. I know Austin has a moon in Gemini, and it's probably sextiling Aries, so I am giving this example. And Austin brought the astrological magic into discourse, okay, in interlaying magic community and astrology community together with his wife Caitlin. And that took a couple of years where nobody gave a flying fuck, and suddenly everybody's waiting for, his books, and people do crazy stuff to get a copy. And this is perhaps the more harmonious aspect where he understood there's something to it. And I haven't seen Caitlin's chart, but Austin tells all his placements, so feel free to talk about this. He understood that there's something here, but the world took time. Eventually they got to it. With the hard aspect, you might find it difficult to understand that you got something there. Okay, like the world does not play dice. God does not play dice with the universe. That's been ascribed to Einstein, whether it's true or not, as he began to unfold facets of quantum reality. I'm not gonna say quantum mechanics because he only went far as the photoelectric thingy, but that is what can happen. And so Aries is a planet, and when I say outer planets to inner planets, I mean Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, and Aries. Okay. Now that I made all this big introduction, she is listed as asteroid, and now I have a chart. So first of all, we're gonna look Aries, and when I look at outer planets to inner planets, okay, Pluto, Aries, Neptune, Uranus, do they make aspects with Moon, Sun, Venus, Mars, and to some degree Mercury, of course, and Jupiter and Saturn? Okay, that's the deal. Okay? It's my signature reading. It doesn't mean that other people can't give this reading, but this is something this is pretty much a surely thing. Okay, so for sure people will copy that. For sure people will, I don't call it plagiarizing, because for me it's like, if you feel free to use it if it's good information. And if you called in to give these readings, then you might have thought about this separately. But this is something that's very unique to me. Okay, I'm very uniquely, when I started composites, that's something I came up with: outer planets to inner planets, hard aspects. And another person that has inspired my composite and synastry is routine aspect astrology, that made it possible to even look at things. Um, while outer planets to inner planets is something I've taken and brought into the natal charts because they're very, very important for those who have them. And if that's you, you really want to watch this episode closely, because hardly any astrologer is going to give you this information in this way. Definitely not thinking of Aries as a planet. Um, they're going to give you a lot of great other things, but not this. So, what happens right now with this chart? This is the chart of the full moon. We're just a couple of hours from it. And in this chart, we have, let's see if we even have outer planets to inner planets. I don't know if we have them. We have a separating aspect with Mars and Pluto. And we have a separating aspect with Mars and Neptune. So this one, oh, and we have, yeah, also separating aspect with Mercury and Uranus. So this one has some outer planets. If this chart was the person, and surely enough, some person is born now, they do have some signatures where they bring in the spirit of the times. This person would also be born in the shade of eclipses, but that's for another signature reading. But this one is not a strong one. Okay, let's say if you came to me for a reading and you gave me these details, and I would see this chart, I would need to ask you more questions before I take you on a reading. Okay, because it's not a very tight orb, and so it can be that you deal with it differently. But now let's begin with what's in there. Okay, so this is the first chart that I'm taking. It's not a hard example. We have ascendant Leo, midheaven in Taurus, Sun in the second house ruling the ascendant. Okay, we have a full moon. We have a Mercury that is separating that is applying to trine Jupiter, but separating from a trine to Uranus. Both Mercury and Uranus retrograde. What does that mean to me? Mercury is in the second house. Uranus here is in the 10th. And there is a trine, there's a harmonious aspect between them. What that means to me, the person who would have this chart could have, on the scale of 1 to 10, he could have it like a 7, where there can be the skills that they have, okay? They can have some unusual skills that take time to build. Communication with this person takes time to build, and it will have to be in an unusual way. This person could be neurodivergent, okay? They could be neurodivergent. They could be a part of the spirit of the times where your career or relationship with one of the parents okay, you as a boss, or your relationship as a boss, or your public figure, is in the process of being liberated, with the emphasis on communication skills, perhaps languages, perhaps informatics and aesthetics. Perhaps there is something unusual about the image that you portray to the world, and it comes through communication, or you're visible technologically in a very aesthetic way, and your aesthetic is kind of like unusual. And you're challenging careers, okay? I have Uranus in the 10th, okay? It means that career for you, your public life, your status, your career environment, it could be astrological, but also you are a part of the people who change the world of father, mother, son, daughter relations, okay? Parental relations. You change that, okay? You came here to change that. Um, Making an income from your public status, okay, or your career and your income, making an income from being a boss. You could be either your own boss. Uh, yeah, Venus here is in the first. You could be also quite attractive, but also in a quite unusual way because Venus is retrograde. It gives unexpected results. And it means that what you experience when you think about your relationships with your parents, when you think about you as a parent, when you think about your relationship with your bosses, when you think about you as a boss, and when you think about your status, okay, you as a public image, you what you forecast on a career level, on a professional settings, you are the part of people who bring some rebelliousness to it. This rebelliousness is perhaps aesthetic, perhaps it's to do with performance or singing as well as technology. Okay, for example, to give a concrete example, you could be a singer who uses AI and uses, if you think about the perfect pitch programs that they use on The Voice. Okay? So you could use one of these perfect pitches as you perform live, and that creates a controversy because kind of like you're performing live, but you make it sound more beautiful, but you could bring even something extra, and that technology or the filter that you have to your voice or to your live performance is actually giving some unusual stuff. Right? Think about Tom Waits. Okay, Tom Waits would use certain effects and would use his very unique voice to portray something with the voice that is quite unusual, is quite a signature. And so you can challenge the way that live performance are performed, okay? Or the expectations that people have from a performing artist, from a singer, from a musician. Or you could be developing some of these programs, okay? And there's a controversy here, but you came to liberate. So you liberate the voice, and that can also be a physical thing. It can also be artistic. Okay, what type of art? So art and technology. The medium is the media, and you yourself could be neurodivergent. So this whole thing could be trying to resolve your own challenges with the status quo. Okay, you could be trying in the beginning of life, you could be trying to go to school, to go to work, and that doesn't work for you. And it's not because you're supposed to fit in or there's something wrong with your psyche, it's because you came here to bring something. Okay, because this is a harmonious aspect, you might have more access to identify that this is what's going on. Okay, and you might find creative solutions either earlier on or as Mercury begins to go direct in your progressed chart. So this is just one aspect. Okay, whatever you're dealing with in regards to your parents, your career, whatnot, this is not just your own problem. Okay, and who will deal with that? Not every person around you. So in the beginning, this is general to the outer planets. In the beginning, you might not see. You might think, I am this weird duckling. I am the scapegoat. I'm weird in the view. But then it becomes like, the song Englishman in New York. Okay, so from I'm the ugly duckling to I'm an Englishman in New York. Okay, or you go someplace else and you have exotic beauty. And it's easier for you to go from this, I'm a bit of an alien in my public life or in my job or whatnot, or in my income, or what I spend money to. Maybe you spend a lot of money on the way you look, and it becomes a trend. But because this is an outer planet involved, it takes time. So the ages where Uranus squares your Uranus square, okay, is something you need to pay attention to. The Uranus opposition, Uranus square. If Uranus opposition is going to be around your 40s, then Uranus square is going to be around your 20s, okay? And then you want to pay attention to those ages, because something's going to happen there where this is triggered by transit. Just a transit of Uranus without even looking at transits to your chart. Okay? Whenever the moon crosses on this point with either Taurus Uranus or Mercury, and this happens every month, you're going to have some signification, something that reminds you that, hey, something's going on there. This topic is going to, you're going to have a eureka, or you're going to have like a sudden crisis, which is also Uranus. Your reputation can fluctuate a lot, but you will understand that there is something inner, and there's just no way you can be liked by everyone, and you came here to bring something unconventional to a very conventional field that is security and assets that are supposed to be stable, that is beauty and sensuality, that is singing and performing, and you basically came here to shock people a bit, not in a negative way, and that's easier. It's facilitated easier for your chart. So this is just one aspect. Okay, another one we have here is this Mars. So this is another separating aspect, and on the scale of, let's say, 0 to 10, you will probably get a little bit of between 7 and 8 even. Okay, that depends on, Mars is in Libra in this chart, and in Libra, Mars is, Mars, the planet of decisive action, comes to the realm of being indecisive. Okay? To give you an example of what happened to me with Mars in Libra, I went to try a couple of lipsticks, and I tried a couple of lipsticks, and I went on and off and on and off and on and off, and then I bought an eyeshadow. Okay, that's very Mars in Libra. So this is just Mars in Libra. Okay, this is your Mars. Okay, if it was in Scorpio, it would operate differently, but this is the Mars. When it opposes Neptune, separating from the opposition to Neptune, it can be that a trace of surrender, loss, and a feeling that whatever you decide kind of doesn't matter. Or you could be acting in a certain way that invades boundaries, including your own. Okay? But then, just as you oppose this Neptune, and boundaries can be broken, addiction can be triggered, and here with the Mars, there can be addiction to sex as well. This Mars is in your 3rd house. So it's something that permeates your daily routine. It's something annoying and heavy, and or you could be very idyllic around your action, but all of the above. Okay, Neptune is about loss, is about the spiritual acceptance that come with the sense of surrendering whatever will be. And Mars is the planet of action. They're not easily, blending. But then this very Mars, it actually separates as well from a trine to Pluto. Pluto here is in Capricorn, in the sixth house. So for you, Pluto in the sixth house, it's labor and labor. It's giving birth, okay, as well as being of service, or if you have employees, then that's your employees. It's also your pet. Um, Mars for this chart is ruling your ninth house and your fourth house, okay, and it's in the third. So that kind of struggle that you have, because there is a struggle, it's a harmonious aspect, but it's not that you don't go through the Plutonian transformation, it's just that you understand what's going on and you can see what to do with that better than the crisis that happens with the hard aspects. And so with the entire Pluto sextile in Neptune, there is this sense of being in your power and surrendering. Because with Neptune, you can set intention and that's all you can do. Okay? And then you have to be in your power. So even though they have a harmonious aspect between them, it's the nuclear energy Pluto that leaks Neptune. It's the viral infection Neptune that, or the healing, okay, the what they give you for heal, the drug Neptune that causes changes to the core of the cell, okay, Pluto, you can make of it whatever you want. And then there's Mars here trining Pluto. So sixth house Capricorn, it can mean you're working for a corporation, or you have employees, or you're owning certain corporation, or something to do with something to do with climbing a certain mountains, climbing up the ladder, or even a church thing with Saturn here in the eighth house. It could be in a certain corporation that is occultist, okay, and this is the sixth house. So maybe you are like a mason and you work in you serve the people, you're supposed to be serving the people by some corporation, and then having certain occult insights, or you work in the businesses that have to do with debt and with life insurances, or debt and inheritance. So maybe you advise people on life insurances, or something like that, because you're supposed to be in a position of service. Mars here, it could be that your daily routine and your daily routine of the third, which is like basically your schedule and how you apply things day to day, and your daily routine as in how you maintain your health and how do you work in a way that's working with your health, and what do you do at work. So this is where these two houses are closer together. The combinations, somebody that is in your home is also having a connection with the world abroad, and they're like a sibling to you, and they're connected with an enemy that you have, open enemy that you have, sixth house in your work, okay. So you could have people conspiring. That's a danger. But with this harmonious aspect, you might be more aware of it. Although those people that are conspiring, and this is a night chart, but Saturn rules Pluto, so your out of sect malefic is involved. That can mean that you have potent enemies that are like siblings to you, or from your neighborhood. Okay? And you must understand that these people are an X in an equation, because the equation is Mars in Libra in the third, opposing Neptune in Pisces in the eighth, and sixth, and trining Pluto in the sixth in Capricorn, the which ruler is in Pisces and with the moon. Okay, this is the X. Who feels this X? Okay, moon can be a caregiver, can be a mother, can be even a part of your spouse. Saturn can be a teacher, can be a guru, can be you at work, can be your pet. Neptune has to do, can be drugs, can be a person that has to do with drugs, like psychiatrist or a shaman or healer, even someone you go to do ayahuasca with. Could be a brother, could be a teacher, a guru, a religious person, could be one of your parents. Okay, that's the equation, and those are the people that can fit into this equation. They're not to blame that you're born with this equation. Okay, this is the equation that you need to deal with. Now you must understand that you're not alone. There are many people that have this particular placement. So for you, it can be that medication that is actually toxic to you plays a role with your siblings or somebody from your family or some teacher or guru. I don't know, you're a psychiatrist and your parent tried to conspire against you, whether it's on purpose or not, okay? Because with Neptune, the person can be self-delusional as well. And that is something that you are going to become aware of. Now, what do you do about it? It's about seeing how can you spread awareness. Okay, so you can spread awareness with your art, with your performance. Okay, with this Mercury, Uranus, and the ruler of the eighth house is in the 10th. Okay, this means that you might become more victorious, where you actually shine as you are, speak as you are, show up as you are. And next to you is a direct Jupiter that rules this moon, Saturn, and Neptune. It's a very angular planet, okay? The most angular planet here is Venus, but it's a very angular planet as well. It's quite a strong Jupiter. But then you have the ability to, you will be known. If somebody oppresses you, it is very likely to be discovered, because you have Uranus in the 10th. Okay, you are not going to keep that a secret. You're not going to keep your self-value a secret. You're going to find your self-value in some unusual way. Okay, that is something that you deal with as a part of the spirit of the times. I don't have to tell you how a drug that is actually toxic, that can have changes to your nuclei of the cell, can play a part in a global situation or a spirit of the time situation, where people become more and more aware that what is prescribed to them is not necessarily what supports them, and they have to both surrender and find a way to stand in their power, Pluto. Okay, so you're dealing also with the conflict of what to surrender and what to, and what, where to stand, where to argue, where to stand in my power. Okay, that is something that you will bring, this conversation, this discourse, this dilemmas, and these insight, these eurekas on how else to deal with things, is something that you will find your own way to bring into the discourse. And in the 10th house, you will be a public figure while you're doing that. Okay, so that's an agenda, that's a part of the change that you are bringing into the world. Neptune can also be drugs. So maybe you got addicted to prescribed drug, and one of your family members, they took you to the doctor and you said, I don't want to take this drug, I found that this is addictive, and eventually you just surrender because you feel powerless next to them, and indeed you have to overcome addiction to this drug. Okay, most addictions are to prescribed drugs. um, and now you have to express yourself. Let's say it could be even amphetamines with this particular one, because maybe they think you're neurodivergent. Let's give you some a tent or something like that, and then it causes a problem. But with you, you're gonna be communicating this, and it may be around your 20s and around your 40s that you're gonna make some breakthroughs through Uranus to whistle blow, but also to blow the system, because you could be seeing this and then you could be saying, I'm going to make a music performance, and then I'm going to make some money, I'm going to use technology and I'm going to make some money, and then I'm going to build something technological, I'm going to break the market of pharmaceuticals, I'm going to break the market of the industries or the weapons and the I'm going to break the market of countries, because pharmaceuticals are used as a political device. Okay, and that's how you fight it. Okay, through this Mercury Uranus that is retrograde, is giving us something unusual form. Mercury is very strong in Virgo. Okay, now you might be relating to what I said on from 0 to 10, maybe 4 or 5, because you have other life. But anytime something like this happens at around your 40s, you're gonna be experiencing the Pluto square. Okay, and this Pluto square is gonna light up. And maybe what I say right now is like, Shelly, what conspiracy theories are you talking about? I'm just watching Beyonce and that's it. Like, I like to sing, I don't know, but I wouldn't record anything. I work at the 7-Eleven. Like, what do you want from me? And then 20 years from now, you remember somebody said something like this. Okay, if this was your chart. Well, somebody gave me a reading. They told me all these things, and they say, well, maybe some of this around your 20, maybe some of this around your 40s. Come 40, come your Pluto square, and you're like, oh, damn. And maybe you begin to understand things that are way deeper than what I say, because I am in 2023. You will be seeing this in 2043, the 2040s. Then you live to the 2040s. They're like, oh, they tried to say something. It's like it's way deeper than they thought. They saw only this and that. Oh my gosh, this was so much deeper. They didn't even begin to scratch the surface. But I thought they were joking. I didn't understand what they want from me. And this is something you will encounter now. Every time the moon crosses over Capricorn, Libra, and Neptune, something's gonna come up. Something off the place where, like, I'm supposed to both surrender and stand in my power. How on earth? Okay, is going to come up. And it can be something with your siblings. It can be something with your boss, because Jupiter here in the 10th. Something, some discussion about inheritance, some trauma, because it's 8th house, things that we know that happened, but kind of like push it aside. And something in your work, or even something with your pet. Okay, maybe you grow. What animals does the Saturn rule? I don't know. Crows. Maybe you have a pet crow. Okay, and you have a pet crow, and you kind of have to find a way to, let's say you have to move a country. The crow can go with you. Yeah, but you have to communicate this to the crow, or there's something that you want to see this crow, but somebody says, oh, you have a pet crow, maybe you are crazy, you're antisocial because you don't have people friends, you have crow friends, and that crow becomes like a pivotal point where you have to find you and your connection with the crow helps you to find your power and to communicate and to create trust that maybe you don't have with your siblings, or you don't have with your teachers, your gurus, or fellow people. It doesn't mean you don't enjoy being sociable. It's just like, with this crow you have something, and that becomes like something. There's something you have to surrender around it. Okay, maybe it's something you're missing, and then you go back, and the crow is angry, and you're like, but I couldn't see you. Try to explain that to the crow, and it can be something like that along these lines. But then you begin to watch some social media, and you begin to see other people that have crow friends, and you begin to find something in common with the people that have crow friends. Maybe it helps to process certain things, or to get over loneliness, or to not fall into addictions, because you have a connection that is very durable. Saturn here is very durable. Okay? Or God forbid something happens to the crow and you experience this tremendous loss. So this is what I would say about this chart. Now, because those are separating aspects, then you might relate less. Okay, I would need a conversation with you before I give you a reading, because I need to understand if it's something that's relevant to you or not. Now let's take another one. I'm gonna take an eclipse chart, because I think the eclipses are going to have some. Oh, I forgot the most important, and that is to check if there is Aries connection. Now, in here, the moon does not see Aries, but if we click on asteroids, we'll see what Aries does. So Aries is in 25 degrees Aries, and she's applying to conjunct Rahu, which is the head of the dragon, where your soul has not been yet, and you're kind of hungry to know about this, but also curious and kind of try to step in, but you kind of have to learn it in baby steps, because you've never done this before. So Aries here, she squares Pluto, but other than, is there something I'm missing here? No. So she's just with this Rahu. Rahu with Aries is incredibly significant. Okay, it means that where your soul is heading is going to meet the planet of Discordia, and this is in the 9th house. This means that you're going to, first of all, Aries is about being victim or being exposed to corruption. In some cases, maybe it also instigates corruption, but her objective is to wake people up. Okay, it's gotta wake up. This is what's happening, and she will do it by any means necessary. So, Rahu with Aries here, it means that you're going to be either meeting those Aries figures in your life. They could be gurus, brothers. They could be siblings. Okay, may have siblings from abroad, and some of them would have this quality to them where they just bring discordia. They just bring discord around them. Okay, they find it very difficult. They provoke what needs to be changed in the world, and so their presence is very catalytic. Okay, it's a catalyzer of change, provocation for change, provocative, whatever appearance, and here it's worldview. You might be growing into a more provocative worldview. So you could be born more into and with Chiron in your 9th house is also accentuating this. You could be born into conceiving the world in a certain way, and your siblings affect your worldview a lot, okay? Or your day-to-day routine affects your worldview a lot, okay? And as you grow into your 40s, okay, 40, 42, you begin to grow a more provocative worldview, or you will meet gurus, or your siblings go through certain transformation that brings discord. And you kind of just need to slowly learn how to work with Aries. What happens when somebody triggers me with their worldview? What happens when I trigger others when I speak about my beliefs, and when you're gonna be outspoken? Okay, this is a chart of a person who will speak up even compulsively. Um, and so Aries is there. Aries is there. And she has this trine to Lilith that is not shown here. It's Black Moon Lilith. So not only is Aries provocative, you're going to be exposed to at least understanding corruption. With this chart, you will understand, like you might have experiences where you're exposed to corruption, and even victim of corruption. And with this Lilith trine in Aries, you, at least in your worldview and teachings, are going to carry the value of, by any means necessary, this must be changed. So there are a lot of people that are a part of bringing these changes into being. What changes? First of all, when we looked at the chart, we saw what is the corruption that you could be dealing with. This can be medical corruption. This can be corruption to do with drug cartels. It can be corruption to do with the government and in hidden cults. Maybe you go to like a Mason or some hidden cult and use like a secret society, and you think, oh, maybe I will feel belonging there. You might even pay a fee because the ruler of your 11th is in your second. You might even pay a fee, or somebody, kind of vouches for you. And you begin to see that there are very corrupt things going on there. Now, because your Uranus here is so connected with Mercury, you're going to be a whistleblower, whether you want it or not. And you're going to be developing a way more provocative worldview, especially when you see that these people, they are in banks, they are decision makers over wealth, they are decision makers over global organizations of health, of banking, and so on and so forth, of science. And you're like growing, the more you grow into your 40s, you will definitely have a provocative worldview. Okay, you're not the only. Think about, and although it does move, you're gonna be one of these people of, and although it does move. With Lilith, there can be this gut instinct right over the body, bodily autonomy, as well as autonomy of your ability to think, to have your own beliefs, freedom often from religion, but also concerning what you put in your body, okay? Because Aries in Aries is poisoning as well. So it's kind of like, what do I put in my body, and so on and so forth. And you're a part of the people that were called to bring that. Okay, so you see, this Aries and Lilith is very strong, and Aries and Raj is only 2 degrees apart. Is very strong. Okay, in your case, you're also born in the shade of an eclipse, which is, yeah, it is not the shade like your whole life is going to be running around eclipses, but it really is close. And so for this chart, we begin to understand the themes that you're going to bring into the world. Okay, first of all, you need to know that you're not alone. Secondly, you need to understand that you have certain equations in your chart between personal planets and outer planets. The people, and in your case, it's some of the closest people to you, play part. They play XYZ in those equations. Okay, if you look at it algorithmically, which you probably will, those XYZs, they, if it's not this person, then it's that person. You're still dealing with the equation. It's still the equation. Okay? How do you remedy that? How do you tend to that? first of all, you need to understand what is the outer planet coming to tell you. What is the discord about with Aries? Here it's to do with worldview, with traveling abroad, with higher education. Okay? She rules exposing whistleblowing corruption there, and as well as poisoning everybody so that everybody will wake up. This is Aries. Okay? Uranus. Here we talked about something unusual around your appearance, your voice, as well as your relationship with your parents and being a parent and so on and so forth. Technology and nature, technology and sensuality, technology and the voice, and stuff like that. Pluto in Capricorn sign in the 6th house, so it can be your pet who is a crow, but it can absolutely be enemy from work, or enemy from work meets sibling that has also connection with academia or a connection with abroad travel, international connections, and you can see how annoying that goes. This is the equation. Who are the figures that fill this equation? It doesn't matter. What is the essence? Aries, corruption to do with academic institutions, international traveling, okay, religious institutions, gurus, and professors and teachers. Okay? Uranus, bosses, you as a boss, parent, you as a parent, being in a public life, that very square that happens between the midheaven, the 10th house and the first, which is you, the first, and you in the eye of the public. Okay, that inherent tension. Okay, there's just square houses. Neptune is in the 8th house. Okay? Liquidity, that is Neptune. Addiction, that is Neptune. Drugs, that is Neptune. Inheritance and intergenerational wealth, that is 8th house. Occult and energy, that is 8th house. Non-volitional, non-dual experiences, drug-induced or not drug-induced, that can be a theme. Okay? Pluto in the 6th, we talked about this. So now that you know what are the things that you bring in, what is the type, what is your cards of what are your cards of enlightenment? Who are you bringing them with? Your Mars, your Mercury, and to some extent your Jupiter. Yeah, Mars and Mercury and the Jupiter. Venus because she rules Uranus. Jupiter because it rules Neptune. But Jupiter, yes, Jupiter because it rules Neptune. Mars, not only because it rules Aries, but because it opposes Neptune and trines Pluto. Okay? So, some of these connections are harmonious, but harmonious does not mean benefic. Okay? Knowing this gives you tremendous resilience in understanding. Radical acceptance is not an easy reading. In radical acceptance that you will meet the people of the Zeitgeist that support what you came here to do. You're kind of like a soldier of enlightenment. Not only that, you would be born on a full moon. And that means that you're fully exposed to certain polarities. Okay? And the luminaries, moon is separating from conjunction to Saturn. Moon is in Pisces, so you're exposed to the extremes of emotion. Sun in Virgo. God is in the little details. Okay? So the extremes of emotion and the very awareness and divinity in details. Okay? Of course, you have to what it takes to do this. Of course, there's people who don't have these many aspects. They don't have Ra with Aries. Of course, they have there are other things to do. You know, they have their interpersonal thingies, but this is really personal. They can still drain their lives, but that is really personal. They're not like having to come together in order to push through certain corruptions and certain things, or they may be dealing with those things, but are not as aware as you because it meets your personal planet. Knowing this is another card of enlightenment. Okay? Now, because it is me, I'm not going to just leave you with this reading. But we're also going to go to a time where we have even harder aspects. And let's go to October eclipses. Let's just do an eclipse chart. Let's see if I have what I want. Yeah, but now I want to something more that more accentuate this reading. Well, this is more eclipsey. I still won't take it. So this is not this one. Let's see. Well, here we have this. Let's see, Mercury opposing Neptune and see how many aspects we have. This is just a chart, a random chart in October. Okay, this one is interesting. It's good enough to go. Oh, yeah. Okay, so before we bring in Aries, when I see such a chart, I'll tell you, you have a reason to come to me. Okay, if you write me your birth details and I see this, I'm like, okay, we need to get on a reading, on my signature reading, in particular on my signature reading. Why? Look at this Mercury, exactly opposing Neptune. What does it mean that it's opposing Neptune? It applies to trine Pluto. Mercury is in the 6th house. Pluto is in the 10th. Neptune is in the 12th. Moon is with Uranus on the 22nd degree of Taurus. Uranus retrograde. Very tight. Very tight. Like, I don't even know if you would come to a reading because this one is so... Even though, however exalted the moon is in Taurus, okay? Having Uranus next to the moon. Moon is where you are supposed to feel safe. Uranus is where you shake the foundation of everything that is safe. But Uranus is the shimmy of the cosmos. You know the shimmy in belly dancing? Where you sway your hips. And you kind of like shaking. Okay? It's kind of look like the move that Beyonce does in her song, which is like release your wiggle. Okay, Uranus releases your wiggle, but it does so on a very earthly level. It shakes everything. Of course, when you want to feel safe, that shimmy movement, and this is an intense shimmy movement here, that you find it very difficult. So I don't even know if you would come to me for a reading, but if you would definitely, like, when I mention this one, I know that it's going to be a bit difficult to even get through to you because you're going to be so involved emotionally with that. And those are very little feelings, literally put. So Mercury, Neptune, Moon, Uranus, and this also means the moon sextiles Neptune, applying to sextile Neptune, and trine Pluto. Okay. Mars is applying to in conjunct Neptune. It's not shown here. And square Pluto. Ketu and Rahu are still squaring Pluto. Venus is separating from a square to Uranus. Okay? This is a chart where we haven't even brought Aries, which Aries is basically with Rahu squaring Pluto in conjuncting Mars. In trining Venus. Okay, so Aries trining Venus. Venus in the 5th, Aries in the 1st. This is a chart where we get a lot of stuff to talk about at first. And I'll begin with Aries because she's in your first house. And she's in conjuncting her ruler Mars and trining Venus. Venus is ruling your Ketu and Mars your Rahu. Okay, so if you came to me with this chart, I would tell you got all of them. We need to talk. But you gotta buy me a talisman by Christopher Warnock because this one is an expensive reading. It's gonna take some time. And of course, I won't be able to give you like the whole, but I'm gonna give you as much as I can. So Aries Rahu. First of all, Aries Rahu is again, we have this very tight Aries Rahu in the first. Just being you is a provocation. Okay? Who you are provokes. Just by being yourself. That being said, because the head of the dragon, where your soul is not being yet, is being you. Relationships, partnerships, or political partnerships was where you used to be. You used to be, I am somebody's husband, somebody's spouse, I am somebody's partner, or I am a relationship consultant. Okay, you used to be in the relational stuff, all up in the relations. And look, Venus that's ruling your 7th and ruling your Ketu is in your 5th. So those were relations that, even though they may have problems because Venus is retrograde, or they took some time, but the thing is that love and marriage, you were that person. Okay? Your partner became your lover, and you have a double whammy. Okay, the sun that rules the 5th is in the 7th. So love and marriage, and in this life, you're actually called to explore you first, and you find out that who you are is a provocation. For example, you could be having in this life a romantic marriage to a person, and you could be, let's say you are gay, okay? So you could be married to this beautiful wife, but you're gay. And into your 40s, you might be having to deal with that. Now, who you are is a provocation. You're dying to be yourself. But that means the lover and your friend, you're going to have to let them down. They're holding you back from being you. Okay? And not only that, who you are is provocative. So you're going to be even more leaning backwards, which can lead to accentuated crisis in your relationship and romantic life until you fucking get out of it But then as you get out of it, you say, I'm going to be myself, and you think I'm going to show myself in my true colors. Finally, I found out who I am, and you're like happy, delighted, telling everyone around this. While you might have the support of, let's say, a romantic partner, um, which can be a point of strength, it can very well be that you're just like, I am I don't know, lit romantic, sapiosexual, trans, queer. And it makes a lot of sense to you. And you just like, let's just say you grew up Mormon. Okay? That is the situation. And you say, okay, I'm going to leave them. I'm going to leave them. I'm going to go somewhere. I'm going to form another partnership that's more true to who I am. Okay? But this is something that takes time. Yes, Mars is still in Libra for you, applying to this Ketu. So there's a back and forth between growing to be yourself and entering a partnership. And there's a bit of a loop here because, like, where you came from is where you're going to. But in a way, on the way there's provocation and just the person that you are is causing discord also in your partnerships. So your partnership is kind of like they want you to be who you are, but they find it difficult to deal with who you are, and maybe eventually they accept who you are, but they have to let go of the partnership. But then who you are is a person that needs partnership. Okay, it's very intricate to deal with, and this Zen-like sentence that is Aries with Rahu ruled by Mars with Ketu on the first and seventh axis, with Ketu and Mars in the seventh and Aries and Rahu in the first. It's a Zen-like sentence, okay? It's a sentence, kind of like a mathematical sentence, a mathematical expression, into which any sort of partnership, whether it's a neighbor in the door in front of you, whether it's your spouse, whether it's somebody you live with that's living, if it's shared apartment or roommates just live in the room in front of you, someone you have a close one-on-one connection, whereas your client you're providing consultation to, or business partner, they could be a part of the people that fall into this mathematical equation. Okay? And the mathematical equation is kind of a Zen-like state. Where you're heading is where you've been, and where you've been is where you're heading. Who you are is provocative, and you have my support to be who you are, but I can't deal with who you are. But then I want to be with you because you are provocative, and I can't deal with that, and you're going back to me, and it's holding you back. But it's kind of like where you're heading as well. Okay? That is something that is just happening. How will you deal with that? You need to understand you're not alone with this. You are part of people that go there. If I think about the gender discourse, okay, and let's say you actually want, let's say, I don't know, you're queer, this, you're that, but you want a cisgender partner, or not cisgender partner. Let's say you're married to a wife, and you want to be married to your wife eventually. Right? You're married to your wife as a man, and then eventually you're, I don't know, gender non-conforming, and you still want to be married to your wife. And she wants to be married with you, but it's difficult for you to deal with it on a relational level. Okay, it's operating differently suddenly in some ways, or maybe it doesn't. And you are a couple that is bringing a new dilemma to the worldly discourse. Okay? Now you're going to be in a partnership as who you are, and you will be a very caring partner still. Okay, you're very caring. with this one. Because with Keto, we think more about others than about ourselves. Okay? And you seem to have a supportive partner. And those challenges that you as a couple deal with are a part of what people deal with relationally in regards to Aries. If they don't have Mars with Ketu, it might be, oh, well, I'm gender non-conforming. I'll just, be myself and I'll be alone and smile. It's this life I'm living for me and not as a couple. But with this particular one, it can be, okay, we are shedding the previous connection that we had, and we are adding a level of authenticity while still returning to each other or staying with each other. It's those things. And this is just, I just touched the tip of the iceberg. How it manifests for you, who knows? Okay. Aries also rules corruption. Aries also rules poisoning. Okay. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Okay, this is also something that we need to tend to. How does it express it for you if that was your chart? Who knows? We need to talk, right? And then we can go back. We talked about Aries. Now we can go back to a clean looking chart. Well, of course, there's Mars with Ketu here, but Mars applying to square Pluto. And this one is going to drive you nuggets and your partner for a significant amount of time because Pluto in your 10th squares Mars in your 7th. Mars in your 7th can be, even though you care dearly about your partner because it's with Ketu, there's a significant amount of conflict. And maybe somebody tries to boss somebody. The way either one of your parents acted, or you as a parent, or your boss, you as a boss, is potentially bringing loss. And it's a very tender word because it's the ruler of the 10th and 12th. Anything where you do your career, become a parent, become a boss, meet with your parent, father or mother. Okay, I will need to speak to you to understand if it's more the father or the mother. Yes, traditionally Saturn rules the father, the guru, the this, the that. I don't know. It could be your mother. We would need to see. But those encounters bring isolation, brings retreat, brings forced exile. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna go like to darker places, but they can bring a certain amount of loss, surrender. Something's not in my hand. There's a loss of reputation, of public reputation, to do with them, and it can and whatever conflicts you have on the private arena, I kind of affected by these crises that happens in the 10th house. So your work life and your personal life are in crisis relation to each other. Okay, this is something that again is not just you. This is an equation, it's a mathematical expression where whenever I want to, climb up the ladder, I feel I'm losing. I'm losing grip of things. Okay, this is just a mathematical expression of the ruler of the 10th in the 12th. And that seems to affect what I'm fighting about with my partner, the level of conflict you have, or even my sexual agility, which is Mars, my drive, my passion, with my significant other. It's not, you see, it's not your boss. You could be dealing with a situation where, your boss is doing something and that affects, something. It's like, but that's a mathematical expression into which other people enter. It's your partner, it's your brother, it's your mother, it's your boss, it's, you know, but the mathematical equation is this, and this is an equation where those conflicts, those things you're dealing with, have to do with Pluto in Saturn's sign, and Saturn in Neptune's sign. So corrupt organization causes you to feel lost or tries to even hospitalize you as you climb up the ladder. Okay, I made cases where people are very talented, let's say in public relations, and people conspired against them to try to do a Britney Spears to them, to basically hospitalize them so that they will not be threatening anyone anymore. Okay, you could be dealing with such things. You understand? You're not, you're not the first, not the only. Okay? Now you need to find a point of strength. So what do I do about this? Okay. Um, so there is the being aware of things, and then the ruler of your 12th is in your second. This means that your loss is your gain. And you know what? My prediction is for a lot of people, I will see these things, is where you have a significant amount of surrender, a sense of loss, helplessness, whatnot, a crisis, isolation. There is gain from that. You think that the first house is the second from the 12th, so the first house is the gain from the 12th. You go through the 12th, and the gain is the first, you're being reborn. Okay, but with the ruler of the 12th in the second, it means that your loss is your gain. What you lose is what you gain. Okay, for example, you could be, let's say, thrown, worst cases, like into prison. You serve time in prison, and you study some skills. You study maybe physical skills, philosophy of beauty and aesthetics, or with this case, how to use technology to kill people on a mass scale, unfortunately. Um, but you study some skills, then when you go out of prison, you can make a lot of money. Or you've made yourself, with Venus is in the fifth house. So maybe you have a creative project, or you met a new partner. You think about um, Julian Assange. Okay, he didn't have a good sexual reputation because he was arrested in his absence for rape of two women, and that's what they got them on. Okay, and because he was whistleblower, he's the founder of WikiLeaks, he was extradited to, I think it was the United States, and during the time where he was waiting, okay, in jail, he had a partner. I don't know if they married and they had kids. Now you think about the situation, because for him, every sexual encounter was filmed, okay, and because he was on such high guard, and so the person that would be his sexual partner, his jail brought him a sexual partner that consented to be with him and had his children. Okay, he was restrained. Every sexual encounter was filmed. Okay, and so if he misbehaves to her, it's very easy to convince her. If he mistreats her, she could be easily convinced to extradicate him, to place another, it could risk his life, it could have an implication, and it's all filmed. Okay, every orgasm, everything is like a porn film or whatnot, and that is a very interesting experience where he must stand up to intimate standards, and he finds a situation in which he has willingly consensual sex with a partner
that really is adoring him and love, and all people, like Pamela Anderson, and people come and advocate for him, and so it's kind of like he's gaining the attention of women and lovers and spouse by being in jail. Whereas if he was out of jail, who knows if he would be accountable intimately and would enjoy intimate relations. Okay, that could be one of these stories. Okay, so your loss is your gain, and then we have the moon with Uranus on the 22nd degree of to kill or be killed. Okay, the moon can signify a parent or a caregiver and so on. And the moon in Taurus is exalted, but such an outer planet meeting the moon in such a critical degree, it means that your emotions are downright little, and they drive, there's uh, some sort of either a technological thing or an astrological thing. You could be clairsentient, okay? So you can sense things, you can sense natural disasters, you can sense if unfortunately there are terror attacks where people are killed on a mass scale, and this is intentional. You can sense here it's not a natural disaster, but more like an unnatural natural disaster, because this is the degree that calls volition to kill. And you can actually sense when these things are happening. Okay, um, and so that can be very unnerving to you, but you can also have eurekas around these situations. So you have insights into killing and being killed by an unnatural natural disaster or in space. Okay, you could sense where an astronaut is dying in space or is killed in space. Okay, this is where they send a mission. It's not like there's an accident, which is Mars, but it's intentional. Okay, they send this person and they don't want them to return. They got what they needed to get from space now. Okay, so you could be sensing that when that happens. And now it can be difficult because it might take a lot of time for you to understand what you're sensing, but also it's difficult because you will find it difficult to speak without with people. Maybe you'll be able to speak with your significant other, okay, or at your work, at your service, and then you have this Mercury that is opposing Neptune. It means that you might try to expose what's happening, but it's lost in translation. Um, Mercury Neptune is in your 6th and 12th. With this particular one, the news that you get about what should you be eating, how should you be taking care of your health, or even at work can be misguided, can be misleading. And with the moon here, yeah, it's kind of like if you try to expose something, um, kind of like it's kind of like lost in translation, or maybe yeah, here is where you have to surrender communication, friendship, and your physical and mental health is very difficult. Okay, you could be affected by addiction, but then they say, oh, you take this and that and it will help you with your addiction, and this is a highly addictive drug. Or you take this and that for your diet, for your nervous system, that's a highly addictive drug, and you don't even know it. Okay, with this particular thing, you might have to surrender what information you find. You will either you will suddenly find information that is intuitive. You will channel information about what's good for you, or you will you will do everything right. Okay, you will speak to experts, you will do research, you will look for different opinion, but there's just one little detail, Virgo, that makes the picture whole and changes the entire picture, and you're only exposed to it after you've taken the drug, after the loss has happened. Those things are happening where, you know, there's the, yeah, there's the sentence of Mark Bayersky where I can only heal you as far as your path allow, or I can contribute to your healing. You heal yourself as far as your path allows. You're going to really live that. As far as your path allows, you will be healthy. But then there is a spiritual meaning to all of this, because if you begin to put it all together, who you are is provocative, so you might not be able to communicate who you are, because communicating who you are before time could be lethal to you. Okay? You sense certain things that happen in the world, and if you try to communicate this, you would be dealing with forces way beyond belief. And so it's like Moses and the coal and Moses. Okay, the story with the coals and Moses was when Moses was born, and um, they wanted to kind of see that he is not going to be a danger to the throne. Okay, so this is what I remember. I don't remember exactly, but the thing is that he was offered as a child, a baby, um, a, a bowl with diamonds and fine stones, and a bowl with coals that were hot. And God's divine guidance took his hand from the balls of the diamonds to the coal, and he took a burning coal and put it in his mouth, and then he was stuttering. Okay, and that saved his life, because he would be considered this stuttering person. He would be a, prophet. He'd be considered a stuttering person that doesn't seem too risky, and so you can save it. It's okay to save this baby. He's not going to overthrow the king. Okay, so he had to not show that he's wise, and God directed his hand to a certain place, so to not show that he's wise. Um, and with you, you might feel like this. Okay, you want to speak up, you say something, but there is a loss to the communication. You don't find the words. You say something that is alive and you didn't mean to, or it sounds like alive and you didn't mean to, then you aren't believed, and it can be like literal torture. But then if you would speak the truth loud and clear before time, you would be dead. Okay, you wouldn't be, and you are exposed to a lot of corruption. Okay, so um for this, if this was a natal chart of somebody, you understand that there are certain children that the children will speak. Okay, you are of the children that will speak. Okay, the children will speak, you will speak, and you will be believed. In time, you need to surrender this. And you need to understand that humanity is going through a certain process, and you are one of those children that will speak and expose whatever corruption it came here to expose. Okay? Um, you could be, for example, a child to a mother that died in an unnatural natural disaster. You have the ability to sense this. You also could have the ability to cause this. Um, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll go to that path. And then, what your family went through, or what you've been through as a child, you have this maybe even speech impairment, or like neurodivergence, or something like that. It affects your body and your health and your mental state. Um, and you know that your mother did not die in a natural disaster. You know, you know that, and she did not kill herself either. You know that she was killed. Okay, and you try to speak it, you try to say it, but it's like Moses in the call. You stutter, or you can't really express it, or you say it loud and clear, but nobody seems to get it. It's like oil and water going beyond um, their ability to perceive you and to hear you out. And it's just means it's not time yet. Okay, it's not time yet. There's going to be something about your actions. Okay, um, and it can be a source of conflict between you and your partner, because you try to explain to her things or to him things, and they just don't seem to get it. They just don't see. You just don't seem to be able to come across. But your Mercury applies to trine Pluto. You're still resilient. You still have the power in your mind and your speech in your body to make something of it. Just the kite shape that you have here. And Mercury also trines this Uranus and Moon. You have the ability to deliver the message and to find your power, whether it's even through your ailment in this situation. Could be that you have a certain ailment that, from a holistic point of view, is keeping you alive until it is time. Okay, when Pluto in your 40s, when Pluto is squaring your natal Pluto, in your 40s, where Uranus is opposing your natal Uranus, it's going to be doing that from 22 degrees Scorpio. Okay. Um, you might be acting on a mass scale, um, and this is where, when I say the children that will speak, you are one of these children. You're going to find a way to deliver the message. And with Aries and Rahu, it's going, you're going to be heard even without words. So this is a chart, okay? This is one chart. And I would need to speak with you to know that. But this is where we really have tight aspects, okay? Mercury, ruler of the sixth and the sixth, and also ruler of the third, opposing Pluto in the 12th. Okay, it's tight. Moon Uranus on the 22nd degree. Yes, on the degree. Okay. Aries 1 degree from Rahu. And then we have Venus squaring this Uranus. It's separating aspect, but it's actually applying from the moon. It's both separating from Uranus, but the moon is applying to it. So Uranus square Venus, sudden relations that give you a very fluctuating sense of self-value. Your values suddenly change. Um, your romance. You might not be the most monogamous person on earth, although both Venus and Uranus are in fixed signs, and yet there's something unusual that you came to bring to the world. And those romance, they're like a kundalini rise, where they are meant to, with the trine to Aries, they're meant to facilitate this kind of like a shimmying your old identity out, shedding the old you, and liberating you into your true self. But they're going to be sudden, and they might not last forever. However, Uranus can also give quite lasting relations. Um, and so Venus did this rule in your second and seventh, is in your fifth. It can be that your children, your first child, your relations with your first child are very liberating, to your sense of who you are. Yet you're gonna have to have an unusual way of arrangement of how you are in relations. So that can mean that um, the space between you is going to be a lot more accentuated than perhaps with other connections. You- You're going to need space. So you also possess certain skills to use technology in little ways on a mass scale against humanity, and of course against women. Okay, or that your partner rules just because this is Venus thingy. Uh, those things they can occur, and they can have various contexts. Okay, so this is an outer planets to inner planets. Okay? Not it's kind of like it's not your mama's natal reading, and it's not that the seven planets can do a lot because they can. And there's a reason where people go into the seven personal planets and they say they could go on a lifetime giving readings, and that would be in depth and that would be lovely, and that would be descriptive. But here, the outer planets to inner planets, you connect with the spirit of time, and you don't have to computate that from seven planets. You see immediately is Uranus with Moon. You're gonna feel it every time the Moon crosses that. Ooh, you're gonna feel it. It's like the Moon is exalted, but something here doesn't click like a Moon in Taurus. It doesn't. Okay, and this is a night chart. You'll be feeling that a lot. If you say to traditional astrologer, say, "Where's your Moon in Taurus?" Well, it's the last decan, perhaps. It's kind of like Saturn, Jupiter. Well, the Moon in Taurus. Oh, this is exalted Moon. Okay, so maybe you have some connections between your sensuality and your sense of safety. There's some sort of like incoherence there. But this is a very strong moon. This is a moon in Taurus. You must be having resilience, a sense of safety. You're like, I'm nothing like that. I feel little. I feel like I want to murder everybody every other day. I have, or I attract partners that kind of feel the same. I think that technology would do a way better job at balancing my emotional state or giving me safety. I don't know what you're talking about. I constantly want to rebel. I feel even unsafe in the world. Um, the core of my being is being shaken from me, and it looks like my values are like murderous. Okay? I don't feel like that moon in Taurus that you just said. Of course not. You have a 22-degree moon conjunct with a 22-degree Uranus retrograde. Okay? Contemplating mass murder is something that you deal with on an emotional level. The place where you're supposed to be safe is quite little. It's a difficult one. So that is my signature reading. You can understand I've been giving it a lot of names, kind of like readings for the revolutionary, um, and yeah, all that kind of stuff. Um, but this is a signature reading, and you can see, it takes some time. It's it in itself can be a full reading, yeah. And the way to contact me and book this reading is basically through either Made to Love Magic One, like the Nitric song, gmail.com, or through Tally Shear with double E on the Shear on Twitter. You can DM me, you contact me. If you see anything that from what's presenting themselves as me in your inbox, ignore it, block it, report it. It's not me. Um, the way we go about this is that I give you a reading and you order me either a talisman or a course of my choice to kind of like get better at what I do. And that is the exchange that we make. Okay. Um, and this is right now the way that I do it. Okay. With the age of air, this is growing more like this. And um, if you go for my signature reading, you're gonna give me your birth details. Tell me, Shirley, I want the signature reading, outer planets to inner planets. Okay, I'm almost 40, I'm growing old. You gotta remind me things, jokingly. And then I tell you, you give me your birth details if you have the birth certificate, and then I tell you, okay, should we go on this reading, or do you really not have anything particular with the outer planets that could like be a reason for this reading? I could offer you other readings like a natal chart reading, upcoming transits, taking a look at your solar return, and even only if you have exact birth time that you know on the minute, then zodiac releasing too from the major lots, kind of like peak points, maybe a lot of fortune, a lot of Aries if that's your interest, or a lot of spirit. There are many more lots, but you know, I kind of don't feel like knowing with or when are you gonna die and what ailment and so on and so forth. So yeah, so I keep it at my Jupiterian rising friendly thingy. Um, this is the way to go about it. This is the signature reading. Of course, when you speak with me, I understand how it works with you. Okay, there can be many significations to, let's say, you know, this Uranus Venus. It could be creative artistic project that you make. It could be your romantic relationships. Um, it could be how you value the unusual level of value that you have for your hobby, or for children, or for romance, or for how should I say it, like spending money as well as um, gaining money by gambling or stuff like that. So which is it for you? We'll find out. Or maybe you will tell me something that I didn't even think, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's really Uranus, that's really Aries, that's really Pluto. And then we can get like the mathematical expression of like what is the expression in your chart. And then you see it kind of falling to pieces, how all the things falling to pieces, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is annoying as fuck, but it's also very centering. It's very centering. Okay, I can give you another example, which is a Chiron thing for me. I have Chiron in my fourth house, ruled by Mercury, that rules the fourth and the seventh, and is in the second. So anything to do with my income, developing a skill and making money from it, um, significant other, and home or death or ancestry is cued to having a major breakthrough at the age of 50 after having like processing what I still cannot. And so it kind of feels like whatever I do to try to communicate, to bring my income, to deal with my relational stuff, to process like my ancestry. I move and I progress bit by bit, but those things are kind of not resolved, even to the point that like my psychologist was abusive, like frisky and abusive. So it's kind of like, okay, but when I get that this is a mathematical expression, and all these figures or partners or circumstances were like X, Y, and Z in those, in this equation in my life, that has certain windows of opportunity to get better, and then in age 50, a big window of opportunity. Um, then I understand, when I understand my Chiron is in conjuncting Pluto and Neptune, okay, which is also outer planets to inner planets, I understand that Pluto's psychology and Neptune drugs are not in harmonious relations to treating my Chiron wound. I have to find some way that is not drugs or psychoanalysis, psychotherapy. It doesn't mean I can't take anything from it, but it's kind of like I really have to find my own way about it. Okay, and indeed, when I was taking amphetamines for ADHD, I began to process some of my trauma. Now I'm no longer reliant on amphetamines, and all the while, those drugs were actually considered very dangerous by the people who were prescribing them to me, and they kind of like were extremely cautious because they thought I might have like a manic thingy. And the more I learned, the more I realized that, oh, they named the side effect for an antidepressant a disease instead of like giving people compensation for the side effect, which is corruption. Okay. Um, but then my Aries kind of applies to, uh, yeah, she's applying to trine my, to square my, no, to trine my Neptune. So it's kind of like, oh, the thought-provoking thoughts about drugs and pharmaceutics, as well as healing and shamanism. Um, so you can see one concrete example where we have outer planets to inner planets, but with Chiron, that's kind of like, oh, okay, so psychotherapy or drugs were not working in the usual way to heal me. And psychotherapy became life risking, and drugs became life risking. But then the drugs that were not expected to help were actually quite helpful to a certain degree. Then I have to abandon them as well because they were also taking a toll on the system. And I had to do it myself. Okay, I had to self medicate and to self go out of medication. I had to take what I can from psychology, as well as let go, abandon, and even save my life, run for my life, and protect my energy from my psychologist. Um, and and that is the current thing. Like, you do your own medicine. You do your own medicine. You do things your own way, and it takes 5 decades to build that. Okay, knowing that, as unnerving as it can be, it's like, oh my god, it takes so long. It's kind of like, okay, I know what I can expect. I understand that this equation is in my chart. I'm not to blame for it. I'm not ascribing to the perception that you did something horrible in your past life and that's why you were hurt as an infant in this life. Okay, there's nothing godly, divine, or useful in such perception, as per what I believe. Of course, if you find this helpful and it makes you a better person, go ahead. Like, yeah, but like, what makes you a better person? Um, but I do understand that there is this equation that is in our chart, and it affects our life in a certain way. And when we understand the equation that is in our chart and what are the points of interference that are open to us, so as far as our path allows, we can improve our lives within these these paradigms. Okay, this is like the philosophy of like giving a reading. But when it comes to outer planets to inner planets, there is the spirit of the times. There is how my personal story is actually a story of the spirit of the time. Okay, if you're one of Yemen children in Israel, of course your story is a part of the spirit of the time. Okay, the children that was kidnapped to medical experiments and so on. Um, Not unlike the Holocaust, right? So the children of the Holocaust. So that is very much like those situations. And sometimes it's not something that is horrid or terrible. It can be that you and your partner, if it's more harmonious aspect, live in non-monogamous relationship that is provocative, but it's kind of like, just a couple of hippies, and you enjoy that. It's all willingly consensual, and you're like, don't ask, don't tell, but nobody molests anybody outside a relationship and call it non-monogamous. Schneider. It was somehow close to somehow. Anyway, and that is just you. Okay, so you can have it on a harmonious aspect that is actually benefic. It's just like, oh, well, you have this unusual happy-go-lucky relationship that is just not like everyone. You bring this big inspiration for other people that didn't think that they could try to open their relationship. And for some people it works, for some people it ruins the relationship. But for you, it's kind of like you're bringing this into the discourse. You're a representative of that bigger phenomena. Okay. um, if you're doing trade, and you're doing trade, let's say, with digital coins, and not people like Moran Altman, which right now she's doing music, but she was doing um, trade and had a program of trading with the moon. Okay, so astrology and trade, kind of like an application. And when she was bringing this up, people were like, the fuck is she talking about? But then it began to kind of gather a momentum and amp up um, into something. So perhaps she's not a good example for harmonious aspects. But the thing is that your personal story is a part of the spirit of the times. Okay? Your personal equation has an X in it that is the zeitgeist that you're bringing into fruition. So the good news is that you came here to change the world, and you absolutely can. The bad news is that you came here to change the world, and it's on you. So, and sometimes what's on you is to surrender. So that is pretty much the essence of it. Um, if you're so inclined to check if this reading is relevant for you, then you can buy me a talisman, buy me a rectification that I want, um, or buy rectification for my chart and a reading. That can also be, if it's like with grassy or something like this. Yeah, I'm all for it. So it's possible, just like you do something major for me, and I give you this reading, that you now see what it is, and and whether you're up to it, because you need to be up to it. Okay, it's like, no, it's not so fluffy, especially with the hard aspects. It's not so fluffy. um and you must take into account that I'm doing here the hat of an astrologer. It's not the hat of your psychologist, your medium or shaman. Even though I have channel, it doesn't mean, it's not the hat of um, kind of like this comfy armchair consultation with all the gestalts and whatnot. I don't know. It's not that. Okay, it's a signature reading. It's kind of like a flagship product, and it's done in this way. Okay, with mentioning these things, you must understand, when I get into your chart, I see something, I might say it. So you want to be ready for it, and you don't want to come to me if you need that cushioned, fluffy thing, which I absolutely support, and I absolutely think you should get as absolute valid need, but it's not something that I can commit to. Okay, not because I don't want to, but because your chart gives certain energy that I'm going to respond and reflect to you. And so, you understand that this is where it's coming from, why it's done in this way. Um, make sure that it's in alignment with your values. Okay, it's not about us changing each other. It's about, is it what you want? Then I'm good for you for this reading. And if it's not what you're looking for, it's very much okay. And I'm much ready you to um, kind of like, be up to your own standards, rather than say, oh, I could buy her a talisman and get this reading. And we're like, yes, but is this something that you want? You've seen what it is. Okay, you've seen what it is. It's not concrete astrology, as in you're going to have this ailment in that organ of the body, and you die in that age, but it is very heavyweight in terms of there are those things that you're bringing into fruition, and there's that place where you might feel isolated and alone, or a deep struggle, and it takes sometimes even decades uh, to build something. So that's one heck of a reading. I know it's something that's not given. There's no psychologist that can do this for you. If you have, let's say, Neptune in the seventh house, you're being called codependent for the rest of it, and then, like, it goes into your eighth, and you're dealing with other troubles, and now your relationships are okay. It's not necessarily because you've learned the lessons of codependence. It's because you had a freaking Neptune in your seventh for like 2 decades or so. Okay, no psychologist can tell you that. I can tell you that, but what I cannot do for you is have the, transference coping skills of long term talk. I'm not giving you talk therapy. I'm not giving you even like personal, like precision medicine kind of thing. I'm speaking with you and I'm giving you insight. I've learned a lot of astrology, uh, but I don't know anything about you. Okay, so this is what it is. This is the way that I meet people, and because your chart carries certain energy, then the way that I'm going to respond to you is going to be varied. um, and that's something that, as grown adults we need to tend to. So yes, thank you for watching.